Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Got an important question for you. Do you wake up every day bouncing out of bed saying, oh, I can't wait to go to work, can't wait for this day to start, all of that? Or are you just kind of moving life forward, not feeling like you're thriving? So the fundamental question here is, have you figured out what your life purpose is? What you should be doing? Why you're here? What is that? We're going to try and answer that question based on principles of energy and so much more. And she's the go-to for that. Deirdre Morgan joins us here on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And how about you?
Fantastic, because this is my purpose.
You're living the dream.
Well, I wanted to do what I'm doing since literally I was 9 years old. And I kept doing whatever I had to do to make sure I could. And I jumped out of it every once in a while over the years and then got right back into it and all different types of, communication, broadcasting, and all of that. You, in your life purpose, harness what energy is, chakras, all of that. Before we get into figuring out your life purpose, how would you describe somebody to you in terms of what you offer? Really, I guess what your purpose is.
Yeah, what I offer, I call myself, first an intuitive, because 90% of how I think and operate is on the intuitive wavelength or the right brain. But I also call myself a clarity coach. And I like that label, even though I'm not great or fond of labels, because my job is to work with someone to help them to help themselves by seeing and getting clear on who they are, what their potential is, and what they love to do most in the world. When we're brought up as kids, that isn't the focus of childhood training. And even being happy in life is not part of our social conditioning, at least in the old dimension. New dimension, fourth dimension, heart dimension, different story. So it's very important right now, where we're all going through a huge transformation of sorts. I don't know of anyone who thinks the same way about themselves or life as they did, say, on January 1st. There's just too much in us that we've had to look at again and observe and think about. So my job is to help you help yourself on getting really clear and focused on who you are, what you love about yourself, what you love about life, and then go for the gold.
So what's radically different about what you do is somebody can be a career coach or a life coach and look at somebody's life purpose based on their life, their wants, their desires. You look at it that way, but you also look at it energetically and also through intuition. Am I getting that right?
Yes, and I use numerology, the science of numbers, to tap into what I feel is the core or true answer, because we can all have wants and needs, expectations, desires, but they may not be based in our heart, in our core of our being. And I like to bring people right down to the bottom line within yourself. So,
sure. And I totally understand what you're saying in terms of numerology. Before we met, having my numbers, life path numbers, they call it, and there's so many, out of my wheelhouse. I just take the information and look at it, but it all came back to the same thing, what I'm doing. And my life path number, and we don't need to get into the details of how this works, but just generally speaking, is 11. That's what it is, based on my name, my date of birth, and all of that stuff. What is 11?
11 is the communicator, the messenger, the bringer of new ideas for people, new ways to look at things. And the 11 usually sees, I call it a futuristic number, because you're bringing in the future, what's new, what's different. The present, okay, you're fine with it, but it's what's new, what else can be done? Why not? Is my favorite expression. And that's what the 11s are about.
And interestingly, the communicator thing, okay, there you go. I took a strength assessment test a few weeks ago where they identified 34 different strengths. Number one, communicator. It's what I've been doing since I was a kid. But 11 also shows up in my life to back this up. If you add up my address, it's 11. I don't think that's by coincidence. If you look at things that have been presented to me, they come out to 11. My father passed away, not even getting into the details when I was younger. He passed away on the 11th. Like, I'm not reading into this. I'm just looking. All right, here's the information. There's a reason. There's a
Well,
reason.
there is a theory, there is a thought behind it all. It's not happenstance. In fact,
Right.
I don't believe in luck or, you know, that. I believe everything is in divine order. We just sometimes can't figure it out. But
Yeah.
knowing your soul contract, knowing your purpose, and knowing what lights you up, okay, what energizes you. Those are the two most important things we can know about ourselves, especially in these times when we can't really count on the outside world uh, to give us answers.
Mm.
You
Do
know,
you feel, Deidre, do you feel that when we talk about our purpose in life, that many of us don't know what it is, but it's inside of us? The answer is right there. I, I always say in my journey, I figured this out. This is what I live by. All you need is within you now, or all I
yes.
need is within me now. It's there. You know, your soul, your whatever you want to call it, knows what you should be doing in life, crystal clear. But do you feel that many of us don't know? We haven't tapped into that, and that's why we're kind of feeling kind of lost in our lives.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I think we're conditioned growing up to rely on sources outside ourselves, like parents, teachers. I mean, it's it's the system, but we rely on outside sources to know what's right, wrong, good, bad, and how we feel about ourselves. So we're trained to orient to the outside world. We're not trained to go within and say, wait a minute, it's all inside me. I just need to tap into it. I need to be conscious of what's going on inside me because that's really what counts.
Hmm. How do you help somebody figure out what's inside of them?
Well, first of all, I do what I call the soul contract. Okay. And the soul contract, let me back up a minute. Before we come down here on earth, let's just say we're up in heaven, right? And we decide, I'm going down there. We make an agreement with ourselves as to what we want to learn, what we want to experience, what we need to, what we want to contribute. We map out our life, if you like, or you can say we script it. I'm not fussy, okay? But we have an outline, a program. And the reason I tell you it's an outline or a program is because we do have free will. We get down here on earth, we get in the body, and we get so busy with our body and so consumed with all the physicality and beauty and materiality here, we forget that soul aspect, that creative force in us. Many of us do anyway. So when someone comes to me, they really want to know more about themselves. And I give them the bigger picture, the energetic picture, what their options are, what their strengths are. We even take a brief look at shortcomings to say, watch out for this and that. But your life purpose is really written in your birthday and in your name.
Hmm. Is
and
that,
stretch for a lot of people too.
woo woo warning, woo woo warning. Here it is. Here it is.
Well, when I first got into numerology, I was married, had 3 young sons. My husband worked in New York City. Life was pretty practical and real, as most people would say. And it just happened that one morning I turned on the radio. Now, all due respect, I don't turn on the radio. I like silence. I always have. But I turned the radio on and I was sort of making the beds. I'll never forget this moment. And this woman, Marguerite Haynes, was being interviewed by someone, and she was talking about numerology and how numerology has qualities and energy, and each number holds a specific dynamic of that energy. And I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This is nuts. So I signed up for a class with her because, of course, I was going to prove it wrong. And so here I am 50 years later,
wow.
you know, still doing it. I have never found that it missed the boat. And that to me says it's not about me, it's the larger system.
Sure. And
Yeah.
you've said, the word science behind it. There's also a science behind astrology. And, I would look at that as whatever until I got a reading from a good astrologer a few years ago. And she said, yeah, you'll be seeing more abundance. And she gave a certain date,
Mhm.
a month. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I found it interesting. I'm just giving examples here. She looked at my chart. She goes, "Yeah, see those 3 things in that quadrant? Those are your 3 kids. The center one is the male, and he's destined to be, public service. Well, if he wants to work for the FBI, just started college, and
Mhm.
there's no way she would have known that. And that was data based on my date of birth, location. That's about it. She was spot on about the abundance that was coming when I needed it, and it showed up. She was right about that.
Right. Fantastic.
And all about this, we talk about this thing called energy. There was some dude, I think his name was Einstein,
Yeah, could be.
that that talked about it, and many people like, whatever. But it really is what's going on here. And it is charting our future and our lives. And the longer we wait to realize what's actually going on here, the longer I believe, going to feel unfulfilled, going to feel like we haven't nailed our purpose in life. And it's just open your eyes a little bit. Just, have an open mind. The soul contract, is that what's known as the Akashic Records?
No, no.
Okay.
The Akashic record is, think of it as a history of your lifetimes here on Earth
Okay.
and what you've done. So it's different. Soul contract applies to this lifetime. Now, there can be karma in your soul contract that you need to clean up. And I just define karma as cause and effect,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
fear-based, fear-based actions, nothing more, that need to be cleaned up. Okay. Because the name of the game, Steve, at the end of the day is we're all made in the image of, we can call it God, the universe, source energy, whatever a person's name is for that higher, deeper power. But I look at it as we all have that spark of divinity in us, which is creative and loving. And that is what, consciously or not, we're all seeking to connect with and to express and live our lives with. And it doesn't mean you go airy fairy. It just means,
Yeah.
you get real and happy about your life, and you build on what works for you, and what isn't working for you, you address it, you take care of it. And for some people, that means you sweep it under the rug, and other people means you have a real conversation.
Deidre, do you feel that in order to have that fulfilling life, that you need to believe in something of a higher presence? what you just identified. They call it spirituality sometimes, and a lot of times people hear the word spirituality and think religion. Not talking about that. If you want it to be, that's good. That's fine for you. I'm just talking about there's something bigger than us, whether it's this universe, whether it's a God, whatever it is. Do you feel that we need to really adopt that mindset to move our lives forward?
I think it depends on the person,
Okay.
okay? Because I really believe we all have different timelines. And by timelines, I mean the projection we put into the world is based on our beliefs, our attitude, our approach. And, not everybody's dancing to the same tune, Steve.
Hmm.
So maybe they're here to learn a lesson that precludes believing in a higher power. Maybe they have to go through that lifetime to realize, whoops, there is something greater than me.
Okay.
I don't judge it. I would have said absolutely, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I would have said, yes, you must. I don't do that anymore. It's a very fluid world out there.
You use the word karma. I want to center on that for just a moment. Do you believe? Well, it sounds like you believe there's good karma and bad karma. It's, a lot of people hear the word karma and right away they think, bad karma train pulling up for that person. Do you feel that if somebody does something that is just not right, hurt others knowingly, they just, absorb themselves, and they know that, what I did was wrong. I don't really care. Do you believe that those who do that will suffer some type of repercussion, karma wise?
Sooner or later, they will. We all like to see immediate justice. Doesn't always work that way. What I believe it really works on is, okay, as you gave the example, someone does something mean or, bad, and
Sure.
they say, yeah, so what? That's their consciousness. That's what we have to grasp. That's where they're at. They didn't think they did anything wrong. But once they start waking up, and who are we to say when and where, they'll say, whoops, and then they'll have to go make amends. Okay, that's their
Interesting.
karma.
Interesting. So, does that mean that if somebody doesn't realize it, it just prolongs what's ultimately coming their way?
Yes.
Well,
Mhm.
is that why that maybe subconsciously we just put it off? Yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. They deserved it. They deserved it. Meanwhile, you may have done some unspeakable things, but yeah, they deserve that. If
Right.
if if they accept it, is that almost like a subconscious safety mechanism instead of
Well,
accepting it? Because then you have to pay the I don't know what would be the
no,
penance, the
I think
first word that came.
those people really believe that they deserve it. But here's the thing. We are the creator of our life. We have to know who we are. We have to be true to who we are. And by saying they deserved it means you've gone reactive. You've my mother used to say, don't stoop yourself to that level. Okay. You're moved out. You've given your power over to another person or another person's actions and behavior so that you justify your behavior. But the truth of the matter is, you've compromised yourself if that's not how you usually operate.
Hmm.
That's how I see it.
Interesting.
I'm not here in the third dimension anymore. Let me put it that way. And this
Woo
is
woo 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 alert, everyone. Woo woo.
yeah, right.
I forget, what did you call it before? What's your word for that?
Airy fairy.
Harry Fairy, Harry Fairy. Yes, and I know what you're talking about here. Um, the third dimension. Before we run out of time, I want to talk about how you can help and support people. But just so we're clear, the third dimension is what many of us operate in.
Yeah,
There's also something called the fourth dimension. Some believe there is a fifth dimension floating out there. How do you know that you're in the fourth dimension?
because I know I'm not as judgmental about things. I know my heart is open and I'm able to express the love and joy that I feel inside me. That's how I know. And I know I've cleaned up a lot of my baggage, my negative beliefs, my, not so great behavior.
Mm.
A lot of inner work. And that's what I offer people, the chance to go within themselves and really look at themselves, but come out loving themselves and being happy with themselves. Because that's ultimately why we are here. It's all about love. Everything else is incidental.
And put a period at the end of that sentence because that's the
Yes.
most profound thing you'll hear today. It really is. There is no higher vibration than love. That's it. It doesn't get any better than what, why do we all crave to be loved? Why do we don't give love? All of that. There's a reason because it's so blank and good.
It's
That's what
it's just what makes the universe. And the thing is, when we get down here from that higher state of consciousness, which is really how I look at heaven, we forget to love ourselves. So
key point.
my work is about bringing you back to self-love and joy.
Or might not even, well, okay, I was going to say bringing you back. You may never have been there before, but realization we were as kids.
You are love. That is the energy. That spark of divinity is all about light and love and joy. We just need to reunite with it,
Mm.
reconnect and be one with it all.
Do you believe because of the innocence of children that, man, I'm talking younger, 5 years old, things like that. They love themselves. They loved everything. Everything is great,
Yeah.
until it's there. There is self-love. They would never be able to express it like that, but
No,
it's there. But then life happens, and they see things, they hear things. Their parents treat them a certain way. Not throwing any parents necessarily under the bus, just the
no,
way
no.
if it's the way that kids interpret things, and then the self-love goes away. Do you think that's how it happens?
Yes, and we could have a whole nother
Yes.
conversation about that. That's a big one, Steve. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a 1 minute.
All right, we'll press the pause button.
Yeah, right.
Deidre, what you offer is so important, the realization of ourselves. And you do it through many different ways, whether it's intuition, whether it's numerology, all of that. It starts with a conversation to get that insight. How does somebody start? How do they contact you?
They can contact me by emailing me, Deirdre's Insights at gmail.com. Now, Deirdre's a rather complicated name, so let me spell it out. It's D as in David, E as in egg, I as in ice cream, R as in Richard, D as in David, R as in Richard, E as in egg, and then S. Insights, INSIGHTS at gmail.com. That's the quickest way to get in touch with me. It really is.
And insight is the key word here, giving you insight. And by the way, I called you Deidre. I'm sorry. Deirdre is the correct pronunciation, correct?
Well, there's two, so you can take your pick. Deirdre is English. Deirdre is Irish. The name is ancient Gaelic, and I go by Deirdre. I
Well,
just like the softness of it.
I get you, and I'm 61% Irish, so that's probably why I said it that way.
Yeah, right. You're
Uh,
on.
it's pleasure talking with you. Everything you've mentioned today is so important. Honestly, if it was, and I believed in energy and psychics and intuition for years, worked with lots of people in that do that kind of work. If you said these things to me 5 years ago, I might have looked at you like,
Maybe.
now I get everything that you said.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
once you
great.
figure it out, life changes for you. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Great to have been with you and
You
meet
too.
you.
You too.
Take
We'll be
good care.
we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.